I never expected to not like Synergy. After all, this eye-poppingly adorable survival city builder based on the supremely influential comic book illustrations of French artist Jean Giraud is everything I want on paper. A rich and rarely seen visual rendering of a strange alien planet that, dare I say, synergizes nicely with its thoughtful and intricate resource gathering mechanics that encourage patient research and exploration efforts rather than combat. What's not to love, right? Well, after about 10 hours with Synergy, I am surprised and saddened to report that I find it all a bit boring. You see, after the initial wave of art-induced infatuation wore off, I gradually began to realize that Synergy isn't meant to simulate an intense, punishing, and consequently thrilling fight against the world's harsh climate, as is the case in games like Frostpunk and Against the Storm. Nor is it here to push your production chain resource micromanagement limits, as do games like Cartel Tycoon, The Settlers, and Pioneers of Pagonia. And given Synergy's near-total de-emphasis on your city's individuals, it's incapable of delivering those fun AI storylines seen in colony simulators like RimWorld and its upcoming medieval clone Norland. Instead, Synergy is about the biggest number on the screen, your city's prosperity score, which visualizes the city's sustainability and well-being. Synergy wants your main focus to be basking in the wonderful art style as you build toward a beautiful, culture-rich utopia that doesn't overexploit the world's fragile ecosystem, which you can see grow and die in real time. Dealing with the harsh climate, producing enough food and water, these survival mechanics that drive other games are inconveniences in Synergy rather than the game's deciding factors. Now, does this design decision mean the game is easy? Absolutely not, as there's still plenty of depth here and still plenty of ways to screw things up, trust me on that point. But still, don't go in expecting an exhilarating experience, which is what I personally was hoping for. That in mind, let's get into the game. You'll start out as you do in many survival city builders, with a store of starter resources and a handful of static, slowly starving settlers. Poor little guys. However, after laying a building from your construction menu, your settlers will snap out of their comas and get right to work. After building early game structures like shelters, warehouses, and picking cabins, you'll want to lay down a field lab so you can start researching the world's strange plant life. These lab results will then inform you about the plant's properties, as well as the different materials you can gather from it by either picking, trimming, or ripping the plant out of the ground entirely. In between all the ripping and tearing, you'll need to build a research center and start unlocking new buildings, like an infirmary to treat worn-down workers, an arborist's workshop to help replant what you deplant, and an explorer's hut from which you can launch expeditions into the unknown. Upon reaching a new area or point of interest, you'll get a short text-based scenario and an RNG choice or two. But watch out, because rolling the die can result in dying. Oh, and keep an eye out for ancient tablets along the way, as collecting and then translating them will unlock buffs for your village. In other words, from an objectives and mechanics standpoint, Synergy is a lot like most of the survival city builders I've covered on this channel, albeit with an attractive and intuitive user interface that makes a fun little ASMR sound when you hover over it. However, I would like to see more map variety by 1.0, as the level designs currently feel pretty synonymous. Lastly, I didn't encounter any figurative bugs in Synergy, though I do think the game would benefit from some literal ones. I just know my villagers must be tired of eating the same watery pod veggie pie every day. Plus, this art style is simply begging for some colorful and creative Dr. Seuss-esque animals. I had originally planned on a longer review of Synergy, but the game's text-based story in which you seek out fellow settlers and study the world's strange glowing phenomenon doesn't currently feel fleshed out enough to fairly score. So we'll give the game a subject to change aggregate megascore of 3.22 out of 5, and plan on revisiting Synergy closer to full release. Between now and then, I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the game or my review. As always, this is Scope, and thanks for watching.